Hi, and welcome to some more of our bonus content for the Rivals of Ixalan pre-pre-release. Graham here with Cameron, Reuben Bresler, and Chris VanMeter, CVM. And we're going to talk about some of our recollections from the weekend and thoughts on cards and such. And we didn't actually figure out who was going to start us off, so I will, because there's some really cool Merfolk. Yes. Merfolk was very good in Ixalan, right? We know that. Everyone's up to speed on that. Mm-hmm. They reprinted Silvergill Adept. Yeah. This card is great.
It is.
This card, if you're in Merfolk, which you should be if you're running it, it's a 2/1 for 2 that is a relevant subtype because it's a Merfolk, and you get to draw a card. It's really good.
Extreme. I mean, it's legacy playable.
Yeah, the games where I got to turn 2 this. It just felt fantastic because because I have a lot of other Merfolk, I always hit, and I get to draw a card. It replaces itself. It's very, very strong. I want to talk about Jade Light Ranger because I had 2 copies of Jade Light Ranger in my deck.
Yeah.
In fact, at one point, I believe I explored into the other Jade Light Ranger.
Yeah. I assume you left it on top.
I will start by playing a Jade Light Ranger. Mm-hmm. So it explores, revealing a forest. So I draw that. It explores again, revealing a Jade Light Ranger. I will leave that on top.
Felt very unfair.
Yeah, I got one as my pre-release foil, and then the other I just randomly opened. But yeah, 3 mana for a 2/1. Sure, not great. It's a Merfolk, which doesn't actually make a 3 mana 2/1 any better. But yeah, it explores, and then it explores again, and that just sets up like this really interesting chain of decisions, because if you this came up in the last round against Melissa, is I revealed the worst card in my deck. It's just a 1/3 Merfolk for 2, Sworn Guardian, I think it's called. It's not particularly exciting. So that's one counter. The question there is, do I then leave that on top, which assures me I get a second +1/+1 counter, and then bin it, leaving an unknown on top of my deck?
Right.
Or do I put it in my graveyard now and roll the dice on whether or not I actually get another counter, or am I drawing a land? You know, like, do you want to... If you hit on the first explore, do you leave that there to definitely end up with a larger creature?
Right.
Because it could be a 4/3.
As opposed to digging deeper into your deck.
Yeah. The play I'm really excited to try with this is playing it after you play the Brainstorm Fish.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So that you can get rid of some of the brainstormed cards. The 2/2 for 4 that does the draw 3 and put 2 back on top of your deck. Yeah, Jade Light Ranger is spectacular.
And that's the power in cards like this, is they can be flexible.
Yeah.
Like, based on the texture of the game, texture of your hand, you can do whatever you need to do with it. But I think a lot of it's going to come down to just the old to loot or not to loot. And I think the answer is to always just to loot.
Almost always, yeah.
So if you hit a card that you don't want on top, I think it's almost always going to be better as a 3/2 that draws you a land, or a 4/3 as opposed to a guaranteed 4/3, unless you need a 4/3, and then obviously you can force it that way.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, I'm going to find myself binning that top card and then seeing what's next.
Yeah.
I think this card might actually be standard playable.
I love this card.
It's a really good
this card.
I also want to talk about a common in Jungleborn Pioneer that I think is going to be very good in Limited for a couple different reasons. So it's a 2/2 Merfolk Scout for 2 and a green, but it comes with a 1/1 blue hexproof Merfolk token. So it's 3 power and 3 toughness for 3 mana. One of that power and toughness happens to be hexproof and on a different creature. But that's actually the part that I find most relevant. Like this would be great anyway as a common. Like, I think this is actually just very, very good.
Sure.
But particularly with Ascend, because it's 2 permanents.
Yeah.
And any card with Ascend, any cheap card that gives you more than 1 permanent goes up. And there was a situation that I had where it was like, I have 7 permanents. My opponent's like, okay, sure, that's fine. And then I go land Jungleborn Pioneer. Whoops, City's Blessing, you know, and then I'm hitting with like 3 power Spirewinders. it's just really efficient. I just really like Jungleborn Pioneer.
Yeah, 3 power spread for 3 power for 3 mana is a thing that green almost always gets, and usually it's in the form of boring stuff like Nessian Courser. Spreading it across 2 bodies, super relevant in Merfolk, when you like to go wide and put a bunch of +1/+1 counters on all your things. And also, obviously, for Ascend. I think Jungleborn Pioneer is really, really good.
Yeah.
And there's a Lord.
And there's a Lord.
So extra
Oh,
bodies
yeah.
make your
Right.
Merfolk Lord.
I had, Merfolk
better.
Mistbinder, which was also in this deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2/2 for blue-green that other Merfolk get +1/+1. That's a particularly good 2-drop in this deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, really,
believe
really
it.
good. And then one of the other commons I wanted to talk about in this deck was the Deadeye Rig Hauler, which is a pirate.
Sure.
But it's it's a conditional mana war, which is pretty great. It's a 3/2 for 4, but if you have raid, you get to bounce a creature. And it just feels like the aggressive, any aggressive blue deck, this is just exactly what it wants to be doing, because presumably your 2 or 3 drop has some sort of evasion, and you're going to want to attack with it anyway.
Sure.
And then on turn 4, you're like, and bounce your giant thing, which ended up happening. I was in a situation against Kathleen, who had the, what's the name of the tyrant? It's the
Trapjaw?
Trapjaw Tyrant. And all of my creatures had valuable ETB effects for me. So I just went, all right, I'm just gonna chump attack you with all of these 2-power things. And she took 6 damage and ate one of them, thereby triggering Enrage, meaning that she had to exile one of my creatures.
Yeah, that's not a May.
I get to...
You must exile one of my creatures, and you can't target the Merfolk because it has hexproof.
Oh, I ate the wrong thing! I totally ate the wrong thing.
Oh.
I should have eaten the Stormfleet. Oh, because I didn't want him to get another Merfolk token. I don't want him
They're
to...
all value.
All have entered the battle.
There's no downside.
Yeah.
And then I had Raid and was able to then play the Deadeye Rig Hauler to bounce the Trapjaw Tyrant, get my, I think it was the Stormfleet
Spy.
Yeah.
draw another card. It felt really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Rig Runner's just like, drop it, down,
that
down,
pirate
down.
down.
Put it back.
Stop.
I actually remember in that attack watching it, one of your creatures was the hexproof Merfolk token
Right.
from your 3-mana 2/2 that can't be targeted by Trapjaw.
Exactly.
Which was the only one that didn't have a enter the battlefield effect. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like, well, I can't target that. That thing's under a Luminous Bonds.
Yep.
So it was either going to be the Jungleborn Pioneer giving me another 1/1, the Stormfleet Spy letting me draw another card, or the
Removing your 2 Explorers creature from the
right.
Luminous Bonds,
Yeah,
giving
yeah,
you
yeah.
2 Explorer triggers, and removing the Pacifism effect. Yeah, there were no good options with the Trapjaw Tyrant.
I know.
It was really good.
that
And-
card also is bonkers, by the way.
Yeah.
Trapjaw Tyrant's amazing.
Of course, yeah. I mean, 5/5 for 5 that Oblivion rings everything that ever deals the damage. It's insane.
Yeah.
The mythics in this set
Oh,
are
yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
There aren't. Usually in sets, there's like a couple mythics where you're like, all right, I guess I'll pay 7 mana to draw 7 cards.
Right.
But all of the mythics in this set are almost all of them are just like
Your deck was literally
creatures,
called
planeswalkers.
Mythic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some of those?
Yeah, black-red mythic because I had Engraph the Flame Chained.
Flame
I think
Chained.
that's his name.
Sure
did.
And this card ended the game every time I cast
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Sure
I was
did.
able to play
Yeah.
it both against Cam and Melissa. Against Melissa, I took her Phoenix that I also had, Rekindled Phoenix, another mythic in the set, to 8 damage her in the air and
Yep.
just lethal her.
The old Phoenix mirror match.
I'm going to take your Phoenix.
Yep, I
attack you
will.
for 8.
I will die.
Against Cameron, I was able to take an Adanto Vanguard,
Yeah.
which
And-
can be indestructible, but it gets sacrificed at the beginning of the end step.
I still feel it was a mistake not to activate Adanto Vanguard 5 times.
All right, so we're going to go down and we're going to take this Adanto Vanguard.
Okay.
Good fair magic.
How many times would you like to activate its ability? Could I suggest 5?
Seems like the magic number.
Five activations, I
Go
think,
to
is
combat.
really optimal.
To be fair, he
could
could
have.
only activate it 4 times
At
because he
19
only
life.
had 19 life.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, in Limited, there's cards like this are very powerful. Obviously, a Planeswalker,
Yeah.
you know, it's a surprise. Planeswalkers are good. But this one in particular is able to act as removal. And if you just play it and go up to 2 damage, your opponent loses 2 life, and it gets a card out of their hand. It's just very, very good. if it boils down to a resource battle. And in my particular deck, I just had a lot of very aggressive creatures.
Yeah.
I had Grasping Scoundrel, 2 copies of that. It's a 1 black, 1/1 pirate that it gets +1 while it's attacking.
Yeah.
I had 2 copies of the new Mog Fanatic pirate with haste, and just a bunch of 1s and 2s. So I was constantly trading off my board when my creatures were getting smaller than my opponents.
Yeah, you had an insanely aggressive curve where Angrath was it the only 5-drop in your deck?
Well, I had 2 unfriendly fires.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. It's the only 5-drop. The other ones drop your opponent.
Yeah, it was the only 5-drop in my deck. I had 2 4-drops, one of which was the Rekindled Phoenix, another mythic to go along with the name, and Dire Fleet Neckbreaker was my other 4-drop.
Nice.
Which is the 4-mana 3/2 pirate, black-red, that gives all my attacking pirates +2 attack. So I had some like 13 or 14 pirates in my deck. I had Dire Fleet Neckbreaker at the top end of my curve for my pirates. And I even had Forerunner of the Coalition, which is the pirate tutor, so I could play that on 3, go get Neckbreaker, play that on 4, and just pummel my opponents. Yeah. And it worked pretty well.
Yeah, when you're able, when you have a lot, you said you had 4 1-drops, including you had Scoundrels. You had Scoundrels aggro. You also had a copy of Wanted Scoundrels.
Yeah, the 4.
Which that thing's just impossible to deal with. The thing I really like about Forerunner of the Coalition is that even if Scoundrel tribal, is that this is burn. The Forerunner of the Coalition. Yeah, so if they manage to stabilize and are able to block all your stuff, then you can still burn them out at the end, which I think is a really valuable.
If they stabilize on 4, you just keep playing
pirates.
Yeah, the other card that I really liked in my deck that I think we're going to see a lot of in Limited moving forward is Tialani's Crown.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
So it's the 2-mana enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, enchanted creature, it deals a damage, and the creature gets +3/+0 and trample. So this doesn't have to enchant a creature you can control, so you can even use this as removal. I had a situation against Melissa where I played Rekindled Phoenix, and then she played her Rekindled Phoenix, and I put this on my Phoenix and attacked, got in 4 damage, 4 damage, which took her to 8, which set up the Angrath draw to take her Phoenix and exactly kill her. But I could have just attacked with my Phoenix, traded off, and then use this to deal 1 damage to her token that she gets from the Phoenix, preventing it from coming back. In my game against Cameron, I used that to deal a point of damage to his Forerunner of the Legion, and then used a spell that deals 1 damage to all non-flyers to effectively, kill 2 or 3 of his creatures. This card is very flexible. There are a lot of creatures that have evasion. There are plenty of unblockable creatures. There's even a flying hexproof creature in blue that you can put this on to get through a bunch of damage. But it also can just deal 1 point of damage to like a Grasping Scoundrel if your opponent's on it.
Plenty of your opponents, plenty of the pirates, for example, have 1 toughness. You can also trigger your own Enrage. Dinosaurs,
that's
which is hugely
super
relevant.
important because there's a lot of much more board affecting Enrage abilities in this set. There's a common dinosaur that deals 5 damage to a creature.
I think it's uncommon.
Yeah, it's a 2/2.
It's a 2/2 for 4.
I hope it's
for
uncommon.
5.
Is it for 5 or
4?
4?
It's a
Costs 4, and then when it enrages, it deals 5 to an opponent's creature. Which
Did
is
you not have one of those in your deck? I know you had a bunch of dinos.
I did not have one of those.
Yeah.
Okay, it is
Actually, sorry. My pool had 2 of those, and then dropped off significantly in card quality for red. Yeah, the Needletooth. Oh, it's up.
Yeah, it's up there.
I even had a foily one.
You also had the Phoenix.
Yeah.
Wow.
These are my good red cards.
Two Needletooth Raptors and a Rekindling Phoenix.
Yeah, and then we have a Ryle, and
Ryle's pretty good with those 2/2s though.
Yep.
With those Needletooth Raptors. That's the other thing
and
about
Tialani's Crown.
Yeah.
Death Spitter.
The other thing that I like, the Frilled Death Spitter is a new one that I had in my deck as well. I really like that. Enrage got all of the keyword abilities got a lot better, more focused in this set. For Enrage specifically, there's finally a red common Enrage creature that's really worth playing. Frilled Death Spitter is a fabulous aggressive creature, and with cards like Ryle, which didn't see a ton of play in Triple Ixalan, they gained a lot more value.
Got a lot better, didn't it?
Yeah, a lot better. And so, an easy way to trigger it like Dual Shot or like Tialani's Crown yeah, definitely a lot more hyper-focused on the abilities.
Yeah, Crown on this against an empty board is a lot of damage coming your way.
Speaking of abilities, the card on the top of your
Yeah,
deck there.
so I
has
have
5 or 6.
It has 5. This is
Almost as many abilities as converted mana cost.
almost, not quite. This is Zetalpa, the Primal Dawn, which was my 4/8 Elder Dinosaur that I had in my pool, which has Flying, Double Strike, Vigilance, Trample, and Indestructible. The most exciting moment for my deck was certainly when I played my Zetalpa into next turn. Kathleen played her Zetalpa, which wasn't
hers foil though?
Fabulous. Hers was a pack foil, so that was much better.
I see you too have a Zetalpa.
Flying, double strike, vigilance, trample.
That will end my turn.
Excellent. Whew.
Now it just gets pacified, and that's the end of the game anyway.
I mean, who knows?
Oh no! There it is.
Yes!
Yours is shiny. What? Yours is shinier than mine.
I just like the idea that you resolve Zetalpa, and Kathleen was like, "That's a great idea. I should try that." And then
Yeah, this card's crazy. I mean, the only thing that can beat it is another copy of itself.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
So this thing was a ton of fun. The other rare that I had in my pool was Silver-clad Ferocidons.
Yeah, these are a bunch of rowdy dino boys. Like,
yeah, it's a lot of numbers thrown at you. 8/5 for 7 is not something you typically see.
No.
And that Enrage of sacrificing a permanent, not usually relevant. I don't really like Crack the Earth that much, but in this format, when Ascend is such a big deal, you either take a billion or take yourself further away from Ascending, which is pretty neat.
So, you know, in watching all of the games and thinking about this card, I actually don't like it.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't have trample,
right?
So it's not going to get through a whole bunch of damage. Having 5 toughness is not a lot,
right?
Especially since this card costs 7 mana.
Yep.
So unless you're getting it out extremely early with the Dino cost reduction cards, then it's not going to do a whole lot in terms of putting pressure on your opponent.
Absolutely.
Because they really could just, you know, if they have to trade 2 creatures in a land for it, that's fine. Your 7 mana permanent is gone, and I mean, unless you're doing a whole bunch of other stuff, there's not going to be a whole lot of pressure.
Although 5 toughness does put it out of range of Unfriendly Fire
and
Bombard and the 1 mana 4 to 1 of their creatures, 2 to 1 of yours.
Yeah.
Yes.
So 5 is sort of where I kind of want that to be at minimum.
At minimum,
but
yeah.
But yeah,
certainly
I mean,
I'd rather
like,
this be a 5/8 than an 8/5.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't have trample, but they can't keep chumping it every turn because then they're losing 2 permanents.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you don't chump it. You just take 8, or you double block it and lose a land.
Right.
So like you still have to have. What I'm trying to say is, for a 7 mana creature, I don't want to have extra stuff to make it good.
I agree that this is not a spectacular, not spectacular on the level of Zetalpa or any of the other rares that we've discussed
this isn't
thus
something
far.
that I'm going to open in a draft and be like, pack one, pick one. Yes, I'm playing red dinosaurs.
But one thing that was in my
if I have it in my sealed pool, I will absolutely play it every time.
One thing that was in my sealed pool that I would first pick is Forerunner of the Empire.
Yes.
Which for my money
goes good with this card.
Goes great with this card. For my money is the best of the Forerunners. I mean, all of the Forerunners are great, but this is the only one that affects your opponent's board in any way.
Yeah.
Your pirate Forerunner makes them lose life, and then the other 2 pump either itself or another creature you control. This one's the only one that can actually do anything to your opponent's board. It triggers your own Enrage. Has a hilarious interaction with the Polyraptor that's in your that's in your pool.
Gets 16 Polyraptors.
It was actually 8.
We figured it out.
So, yeah, Universe Brain turns out it's just 8 because
there aren't multiple Polyraptors entering the battlefield at the same time because they're individual triggers on the Polyraptors. So if you have Forerunner, you play a Polyraptor, triggers, and you get a Polyraptor, and this has a damage on it.
Yeah.
This Polyraptor triggers.
Okay.
And so you have a trigger and a trigger here with a damage on the Forerunner.
Yeah.
So this one resolves, you don't deal the damage.
Okay.
because then it'd kill itself.
This one resolves, you do trigger this.
It's only got 1 damage marked on it at that point.
No, it has 2.
Because 1, 2, 3. So you
doing
have
this
to.
wrong.
So you have to
Yes.
ignore one. You have
Yes.
to
You
because
have
the
to- you have to
forerunner
ignore
forerunner
one
of
of
the
the
Empire
triggers.
is a May. So you
Yeah.
so you deal 1, have 2. Deal
Okay.
1, have 4, which now the forerunner has 2 damage on it. Then if you put the other triggers on the stack, these all trigger separately. So you actually have to ignore one of the forerunner triggers to get to 8. It's a very complicated thing. It took us.
We'll do it again.
We needed the
We'll just
whiteboard
have
in the
to-
other room.
I'll just have to wait until this comes out on Magic Online.
Yeah.
And do this. I'll just have to get Polyraptor and Forerunner of the Empire.
Yeah, exactly. But in any case, Forerunner of the Empire is fabulous. I was very impressed by it. The other card that I was very impressed by, that I wasn't expecting to be so impressed by, is Squire's Devotion. Which is an enchantment for 2 colorless and a white that gives the enchanted creature +1/+1 lifelink, and you make a 1/1 vampire creature with lifelink.
That seems great.
It's
Yeah.
great.
It's like
Pushes you towards the
it's
set.
like a mini
Nightly Valor.
It's
yeah.
a mini Nightly Valor. Exactly.
That also helps turn on Ascend.
It helps you turn on Ascend. It digs you out of big holes. There are a number of creatures that deal damage outside of combat, including the Frilled Death Raptor and the Forerunner of the Slaughter, that let you have the lifelink as well. Getting to 1/+1/+1 toughness and power is hugely relevant, particularly in the air. So if I had a bunch of 2/3, I had a couple 2/3 flyers in my deck, like a Kinjali Sunwing and the new Chapelgeist. Making them 3/4s instead of just 2/3s is hugely relevant for taking down, for example, your 2/3 flyers and the 1/3 flyers for
2 mana.
for 2 mana
Skybladed
in Vampires, Skybladed Legion. So I was very impressed by Squire's Devotion. It gets you 2 permanents closer. It lets you survive longer. And yeah, I was just extremely impressed by that card. And the last card I wanted to talk about is Mutiny, which I really liked. I thought it was just going to be kind of average, and it was just removal. But with the ability for Luminous Bonds and Water Knot and other ways to keep opposing creatures on the battlefield, but at
Eyes and
bay.
Addiction is still in the
Eyes and
format, too.
Addiction's a great one as well. Leaving those in play to be able to take care of other creatures with your Mutiny is a hugely valuable resource.
But you do have to make sure that you cast this card as a sorcery.
Yes.
Both Reuben and Melissa tried to play it as an instant.
Yeah,
and it does not work.
It does feel like it could be an instant, but I am not surprised that it's a sorcery.
It has an outnumber feel to it, but
Yeah.
it's not outnumber.
Mutinies take time to plan.
Yeah, there you
good,
go.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
Excellent input.
There's your shortcut. Remember that. Cam, what did you have going on in your deck?
Well, I wound up in black-white vampire aggro tempo mid-range, and
Control.
Yeah.
The classic
Yeah.
aggro tempo mid range.
So I've been trying to think about what the all-stars were in my deck, and Forerunner of the Legion, where everyone else loved their Forerunners, this is also a very good card, but it's worth pointing out these are only about as good as what you're getting with them.
Yeah,
right?
that's a good point.
Like, so I want to hit Avona with this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
It's such a fleeting effect, the
Or-
Forerunner of the Legion.
Or the
Yeah.
new mythic, the 4 mana 1/1.
Even that's fine. Yeah.
Or even there's a
The
rare
Vampire
there's-
Pinata?
Yeah, there's a rare vampire that comes into play and Oblivion Rings a creature, and then when
Yes.
you attack, it gets pumped.
Yeah, exactly.
Those type of things.
A Mavern Fane. When you're hitting Bishop of the Bloodstained is not a bad hit, right? It's not a bad card.
Yeah.
But when you can be getting absolute just karate chop cards
Yeah.
here, it's less good, especially considering how, as you pointed out, how fleeting the effect of the ETB trigger is.
Yeah, because the Merfolk one puts counters on itself, so it stays bigger. The red one, like you said, affects the board, and the black one just makes them lose a life, and so that definitely furthers your game plan.
Right.
But a bunch of times, a bunch of times the Forerunner sits there.
Yeah.
There was awkward situations where it couldn't really get value off of its ability because it was the only vampire
Yeah.
that was in play. I guess making it a 3/3 in attacking was sometimes good, but
Yeah, well, I think it's probably a bit dialed down because of how prevalent effects like lifelink are
Yeah.
in the vampire deck, and this could be like a massive swing if you put this on like a 3/3 with lifelink, and then suddenly it's a 4/4, and it can be very good, but it's only as good as the rest of this incredibly synergistic deck
Allows
is.
it to be, yeah.
It's interesting to see how these Forerunners are going to play out as the limited format keeps getting played. Because one of the big benefit of the Harbinger cycle from Lorwyn, which is what these are based off of, is that there were tribal instants and sorceries and enchantments that you could get instead of just creatures like in this set. So it was much better when your Forerunner of the Legion could go get something like Nameless Inversion that would give a creature -3/-3, or a Lignify, or something like that. Whereas with this one, it is just what creatures do you have, what can you go get. Most of the time, can you afford to not draw a land the following turn? A lot of people were saying, yeah, it's in May, let me look through my deck and figure out what I want.
Another card that a card that I thought was a standout is Moment of Craving.
Yes.
I think this is going to be very important in this format. 2 toughness seems to hit, or -2/-2 hits a lot of important things, right? A lot of the nuts and bolts dinosaur Enrage creatures have 2 toughness, and this will get rid of them without triggering Enrage.
That specifically that point, without triggering Enrage, you can kill that Needletooth Raptor, the 5-mana one.
Without triggering Enrage at all.
It kills both of the Lords, which was super relevant every time it happened.
You had one in your deck as well, and it killed the other, for your deck in particular, the super aggressive decks. There are a lot of, lifelink creatures that you have to deal with. The 2/1 that when it dies, it makes a 1/1 lifelinker. And then Queen's Bishop is the 2/2 lifelinker from Ixalan, both of which just get taken out by Moment of Craving without causing any
Bishop's Soldier.
Bishop's Soldier. Queen's Bishop to F7 is a different thing. But but yeah, Moment of Craving, being able to take care of those very clean, very easily is a huge deal.
Right. Also, the life gain is nice in the Vampire deck, which always feels like it's a bit behind the 8 ball until it kills your opponent. Right. Like you're always just like hanging on by your fingernails, and you're like, oh wait, kill you. Impale. What do you say about Impale? Right. It's
painful.
I was a bit jealous of everyone else's deck because they're like, oh, and then there's this interaction, this interaction, this interaction, which is all really neat. And then I'm like, I just get a 4-mana unconditional removal spell.
Right.
At common.
At common.
It's important to note that it's at common, because there is a 4-mana removal at uncommon.
It's just stable to
with the Chupacabra, but at common, this is good.
At common, like, all these, this is, I assume, the breaks in the limited meta on the very, very synergistic creature decks. What else? I mean, Radiant Destiny, it's an anthem.
Yeah.
What do you really say about it? It picks up Ascend.
You were also talking about how, the Vampire deck is sort of dirtling until it just kills you. This is the card
that just
kills them. Like, you end up with a lot of just 1/1s for 1 sitting around, not able to run past your opponent's Grizzly Bears, and then you play this, and it's just an always watching for your entire team, giving them +1/+1 in Vigilance. It's just a fabulous card.
Yeah, Vigilance is a really, really nice keyword, especially, again, in the Vampire deck, where lifelink kind of multiplies the effects of being able to both attack and block.
Oh, and you were splashing for something,
yeah,
weren't
splashing
you?
for Journey to Eternity. People, in my first game where I played a forest, kind of on the last turn of the match, people were like, what's the green splash for?
What's the splash?
Yeah, so Journey to Eternity was the splash, and I never got to use it.
Yeah, that card is bananas, though.
Yeah,
the Aztal Cave of Eternity on the backside is almost impossible to beat in a limited game that's going long. Your Bishop of the Bloodstained, being able to revive that.
If I'd been able to recur Bishop of the Bloodstained, that would have ended a conversation real quick, right? Like, it's a hammering.
I really like this card, and it goes a long way towards facilitating like the green-black Explore value style deck.
Which is a deck I never was able to pull together in Ixalan Limited, where you're just playing like the Elemental and Chupacabra.
Yes, but unfortunately I don't think that it's going to be capable in this format either, because we didn't get like any common black Explore creatures.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of green Explore, lot of green Explore. There's not a lot of black, so you kind of have to hope to get both, the green stuff and the black stuff for it.
And then you're fighting both like you're fighting the Merfolk player for the Explore cards.
And you're fighting like the Vampire players and the Black-Red Pirate players for the black removal. So it just like sits in this weird spot in the middle of the Venn diagram. But if you get this card and can get some of the Enter the Battlefield creatures, it's just insane.
Yeah. I really wish I'd been able to turn this on at some point, just to experience it. And then, I don't know, like all the additions in Rivals for the Vampire deck are good, but pretty straightforward, like Martyr of Dusk It's a piker. It
Yeah.
leaves behind a vampire
Yeah.
when it dies. That's a good card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not much commentary to be made there, right?
Yeah.
It's a doomed traveler.
Just solid
right?
value.
Yeah.
Solid value. Really good at holding off the super aggressive starts like Chris's deck. As
Yeah,
well.
trades up and then trades again, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise that's kind of where I was. I liked Sun Sentinel, but that might just be because I always tend to overvalue vigilance. Because it means I don't have to make as many decisions.
It's very good with that +1/+1 in lifelink enchantment that Reuben talks about.
It is. This Sun Sentinel wants to acquire a squire.
Yes.
Did you have a standout moment from the day that you can recall?
I think Adam choosing not to mulligan in game 2 was really a good play on my part.
Top
Like,
notch.
yeah,
top plays.
not letting the boot off of Adam in game 1 was, you know. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't recall a particular standout moment where I was like, oh, and then I can sequence it like this and this and this and get them.
Right.
I don't recall that happening in particular. What I was just able to do relatively consistently in the games that I did win was just curve out and play efficient threats and kind of like build up a differential between my and my opponent's life totals. Right.
And yourselves?
I mean, Angrath was great.
Yeah. and-
Yeah.
I really liked everything I got to do with that one. I also had some. Actually, I did have one cool interaction. I can't remember who I was playing. I think it was against Melissa actually, where I knew that she had a 1 mana threat or 1 mana combat trick in her hand, and I wanted to use my Mog Fanatic pirate to kill a creature after combat happened. But in combat, my wanted scoundrels would give her a treasure, which would allow her to cast her combat trick to save the creature.
Yes.
So
Which
I
you knew that she had because
but I
you
knew that
cast
she had,
yeah.
so that I had to ping in combat before damage happened to make it so that she couldn't have that
use the
treasure to
combat
save her
trick, yeah.
creature, which is something that I think that could very easily be missed.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of awkward sequencing, right? Like there's no reason to do that before combat damage, except in that like one instant.
Could you have done it in response to the
I guess I could have done it in
trigger?
response to the trigger for the
Okay.
treasures.
Yeah.
But that's like the same thing, right?
Yeah,
Like you could have
exactly.
did it there.
That's
before
good though. That's
combat damage happened.
that's a hot tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other black-white moment of triumph as opposed to the -2/-2 gain 2
Yeah.
life. This is always the +2/+2 gain 2 life. That was a really good card as well. I anticipate that seeing a lot of play. In the vampire decks in particular. I guess my favorite moment was finally actually getting to use my Sunbird's Invocation, the one game that I actually got to use it. When I played Sunbird's Invocation and then the next turn untapped and played my 7-drop Ferocidons. Unfortunately, the dream was play the 8-drop Zetalpa, finding the 7-drop Ferocidons. And instead, I played the 7-drop Ferocidons, turned over 8 cards, and one of them was the Zetalpa, which was a little unfortunate. But
What
I still
did you end up casting?
off of that. I
So
think
5-drop,
I think I Luminous Bonds something.
Oh, maybe.
That's pretty good still.
Which was still pretty good. Yeah, play an 8/5 and turn off one of your opponent's creatures is not bad.
Good old Sunbirds.
Yeah, I like Sunbird's Invocation, especially in sealed. It's much slower. It's usually too fast of a draft format. We'll have to see how it develops with Rivals.
Yeah, 2 packs of rivals now, so
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see.
We did get to see the card this weekend, not in any of our decks, but I think is the best rare for limited, and I think will be constructed playable, is the Tender Shoot Dryad.
Yeah.
That Evan had in
Evan
his
had.
deck, the mini Verdant Force. I think that outside of any Mythics, I think that is the rare that I want to most open
Absolutely.
in this limited format. I think it's playable and constructed, and with only 1 green in its casting cost, it might even just be splashable in like your if you have blue or black in your deck and get any number of treasures, I think this card is just actually splashable.
Yeah, and I think that the second best rare, not Mythic, but second best rare is actually the Anthem.
Yeah.
I'd be hard pressed to not pick that over at least half of the Mythics.
Yeah.
That card is super good as well.
It's interesting though what the tribal effect on the Anthem sets up, because like the decks in white, right? You have vampires.
Yeah.
And then you also have the white, green, white, red dinosaurs,
Yeah.
which lean heavily on their humans. as well. So
So you can just name humans.
yeah,
Sure.
maybe.
Or if
right?
you're doing the
I mean,
Explorer deck, you can
yeah.
just name humans or scouts most of the time.
Yeah,
Call your
scouts.
creatures.
Ooh, scouts.
Call your creatures Explorer,
Name
like
scouts.
Sunrise Seeker, and yeah,
Does
most
everything
of
that
them are
have
scouts.
Explorer?
Not everything. They're either scouts or humans most of the time.
Oh, wow.
okay.
Yeah, look, Tishana's Wayfinder, Jade Light Ranger are both scouts.
Yep.
And so, interestingly, is Jungleborn Pioneer.
Ah, there
yeah,
you go.
yeah.
Huh.
Anthem effect.
Scout tribal is
Yeah,
the hidden
yeah,
fifth
exactly.
tribe in the
Scouty,
set.
Scout.
That's the yeah. You play Radiant Destiny, name scouts.
There we
Galaxy
go.
Brain.
Exactly.
Right?
All right.
It's like when Kathleen named Beast with her unclaimed
Unclaimed
territory.
territory.
Oh, yeah.
Cast a Chupacabra.
Foreshadowing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they call that in the biz.
Exactly.
Well then, I think that will do it for our recap of the pre-release. Your own pre-release is coming up this weekend. Check that out. And thank you to CVM and Reuben and Cameron for joining me. And check out more content to come with some sealed deck builds hitting the channel this week before the pre-release. So enjoy that as well. Thanks for watching.